we were partners, and we did a blog, and we chose our problem in the physical domain, and we talked about hypotonia, which is muscle weakness in kids, and we kind of did more of like a educational aspect to it, and we talked. Um, we did a little bit.
Do you want me to give a little background on my blog?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be good.
So I last semester had to do a presentation for the Research and Creative Works conference as part of a interdisciplinary studies capstone project. And what I did was I created a website and ran a couple of active learning activities with kids in my gymnastics class, and I took video and I wrote about it and I put it up on this blog called Vaughn's Kinesthetic Learning Adventure Zone. And this semester, my wife and I actually today, that's part of why I'm spiral binding, we're doing Research and Creative Works conference again, but this time without a grade, just to share ideas and be fun. And anyway, this blog is all about like ways to incorporate education into movement, and part of what you have to have with that is helping kids that have weaknesses that are physical, and so that's why Allison and I kind of decided to put our information on hypertonia onto my blog. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing project even after I graduate, because I'm going to be working for a large international childcare company that I'll be working at the Ogden IRS complex that they have. They have 74 kids that are there from like 5 in the morning until 8 at night. That's when they're open anyway, so they have different kids. They have everything from 6 months to 10 years old. And so I have this as a resource, and I'm just going to keep building on it and adding stuff. So that's where it's www.vaughnhokanson.weebly.com. And then we went to my resources, and we have a collaborative intervention ideas tab, and that's where Allison and I posted. And then Allison's work is all in italics, and I give her citation there, and then we just kind of ping off of each other and share ideas. And she has a neat blog too. She had a premature baby, and so she is kind of familiar with this hypertonia idea really well. So okay, there you go. Go ahead again, Allison. You can continue sharing what we found. So.
All right, so kind of using both of our knowledge, we did kind of an informational of really anyone who's going to be in contact with that child, of things you can do at home or at the playground or just anywhere you are, of how you can help strengthen those muscles and incorporate it into just everyday activities and everyday life. So we did some little like activities on there, were like heel walking, and literally have the kid like walk on their heels, and it helps strengthen their muscles. And there's one of like a game with bean bags. You can have them put the bean bag on their foot and they balance. And so we really just did like an educational kind of fun way to get parents and caregivers and anyone associated with the kid involved in helping them in every aspect.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the only thing I have to add is that we did a little bit of research. We found some articles on hypertonia, some that dealt with sports medicine, and we kind of cited a little bit of that additional information. Some of the things that I put in there were how tumbling and gymnastics classes can help, dance classes, family exercise and yoga, and I've been able to see some of that firsthand because I have several children that I work with who have very low muscle tone, and it's incredible, like 6 months of doing 1 hour a week, and obviously that's not the only way they're developing, but there's definitely improvement. So again, if any of you want to check that out, it's vaughnhokanson.weebly.com, and it's under the tab, I think it's additional resources. So I guess that's our presentation. Any questions?
Just so I'm like making sure I know what I have a basis understanding. The hypertonia is just like a weakness of muscles. Is that what it is?
It's basically when you're born with an underdeveloped muscular system. So a lot of times it can be a child that has maybe premature birth, maybe they've been exposed to something, as a teratogen in the womb, anything that makes it so that they have a difficult time keeping their skeletal structure in line, so they're kind of floppy and loose, and their arms hang loose, and it's just muscular weakness that it can have many different causes. But one of the quotes we have here: babies with hypertonia are often described as floppy or like a rag doll. So,
Okay.
I actually have a nephew who
Like,
wasn't premature or anything, but he's just very weak. So
yeah.
Okay.
And it's different from kids that just like don't play very much and are just kind of like weak. It's an actual, it's caused by something instead of just kind of laziness.
genetics or
Yeah.
development. And
Genetics or an
that kind of
infection
thing.
or some type of outside environmental cause.
Okay. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. That's cool that you guys made a blog. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, you guys should check it out. His blog is really cool.
Hopefully it'll continue to expand. I want to make it a good resource for people. That's the whole point of making it. It was not just for me, but just for people to use. So
Yeah.
it's not got a lot of information, but it'll be growing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Great job.
Okay, so I'll talk
And
about.
also,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say you should also check out Allison's blog about her baby, because her baby's really, really cute.
Aw, thanks.
You guys will have to send us links to your blogs.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I can start talking about mine and Paige's topic that we did last week. We were focusing on bow-legged or bow-leg walking, and so I mean, you typically see it with younger children anyways, like as they first start to walk. But it can become a problem, and so but it doesn't usually become a problem until like they don't, if their knees and their feet don't start turning back to how they should be in the normal positioning, then it can create problems for them. And so there's some things that you can do to like help with it, whether it's like some interventions include like there's like these splints that they put on your knees to help them like not bend in or outward. And then there's also trying to remember what the other one was.
There's like certain like sleeping and sitting behaviors that they can change, like instead of like allowing your children to like, you know, like how you can like fold your knees or fold your legs and sit on top of your feet, you know, like where your legs are folded underneath you and
Yeah.
stuff. Like that kind of sitting is like really bad for and it contributes to bow-legged walking and stuff. And then just like sleeping on your, I think it's on your back instead of forward. That way your feet don't turn inward, and instead your feet are tending to pull outward when you're laying on your back. And then worst case scenario, you would get your child surgery if their bow-leggedness persisted past like 5 years of age, and that surgery would take place like around the time they were like 7 or 8 years old and stuff. But it's really rare for them to need surgery.
Yeah, I mean, usually the people that get surgery are those that with cerebral palsy, or I think there was what was it? Blaine's disease, I think it was. Was it Blaine's? Do you remember, Paige?
It's Blount's disease.
Blount's. I had the first beginning sound, right? Yeah, Blount's disease. But usually those don't even have surgery unless if like it's really severe, like the feet are turned inward, or like the feet or the knees are turned inward or outward more than 15 degrees.
Yeah.
So usually, like, the surgery is just for, like, from what I'm getting from this, mainly if they have, like, some other kind of condition on top of that.
Sometimes it depends. Like, I mean, at least for those disease, like that's usually what the surgery is for. Like, usually those are typically the people that get them because most children, like, because they do have to start with like walking when they first start to learn to walk. They do. It naturally corrects itself. So most people don't even like need surgery or splints or um, sleeping, changing of their sleeping patterns. But for those who are a lot more severe, though, whether it's because of a disease or other reasons, then they need to be considered for surgery.
Alright.
Yeah,
So,
and like there's like other like other types of illnesses like rickets, which is vitamin D deficiency, which can cause bow-leggedness to become worse. And like the point when you want to become concerned about your child's bow-leggedness is around like 3 years of age. If it becomes worse and stuff, not necessarily that it persists, it's if it becomes worse and the bow-leggedness like increases in a greater angle, then you want to take them to a doctor, and then they can um, assess the situation and put splints on them and things like that if it were to get worse and stuff.
yeah. And typically they don't like to do surgery on children unless if they're like 7 to 10 years old because of the fact that um,
They'll
if
usually
you do
correct.
it when they're younger, they are more likely to have it redevelop in their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the surgery is basically putting plates in at their hips to help straighten out their legs.
Yeah.
So it's something that like needs to be considered if it's very severe and their feet aren't naturally correcting themselves and it looks like the condition's either getting worse or the degrees of which their feet or their knees are turned in are like more than 15 degrees. But other than that, like really, it should self-correct itself as they age. Usually, it doesn't. Some children don't even have it fully corrected until their teen years. So, but as long as you don't see that it's getting worse, or like like mostly if you don't see it getting worse, it should be fine.
Um.
So
Yeah, go for it.
yeah, I just was gonna ask with that, with the bow-leggedness, you said that they don't need surgery unless generally they have other problems. Like, is it for kids that could need surgery later on? Is it something that if they get caught early with it and they have the right kind of interventions that can prevent their need for surgery? Is that kind of the idea?
For the most part and stuff, the thing is like it's kind of like it can go either way. If you catch it too early and you do try to intervene with like surgery or some other sorts of things, it can actually reoccur as the child continues to grow and stuff. But like if you do catch it early enough and you were to put like splints on them or um, like use like other like natural remedies like laying on their back or having them sit upright and things like that, then those sorts of things would allow them to would be suitable interventions for early stuff. It's like when it comes to stuff like this, it's really important that they take that a doctor assess the situation and stuff
Yeah.
because it's really hard to tell because for some kids it can be fixed with some little interventions, but sometimes it's so severe that they have to wait a few more years, and the child would like have to use like other walkers and stuff to like help them continue to walk and things like that until they're able to get that surgery around 7 to 8 years old.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to be careful though that if you try to get it fixed early, you want to be careful that it's not just part of the psychological process of learning how to walk because they do have to be bow-legged for a little bit just in order to walk because they can't just stand upright like how we do with our feet close together. They have to have their feet a little more further apart in order to stand up and walk. And that's just a natural process of them learning how to walk. So you do want to be careful about really trying to diagnose it early for yourself. You really, if you just don't see it improving though, and it getting worse by the time
Do these
they're
kids ever use hand canes, like where they have it? Is that, or is that not? It's not generally that severe in helping them, causing them not to be able to walk. You know what I'm talking about? Where they have them on their wrists and they go down and they they walk with their feet, but they have to hold balance with their arms.
Usually quadriplegics
Did you
use
see
those
anything of that?
and stuff, but
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I just didn't know if it was that.
yeah, I think that they might use those and stuff, but like some of the ones that we saw, they actually were like they were similar to that, but they actually had wheels on them and stuff.
Huh.
And like they kind of like went around like around their backside, that kind of like a walker, but instead of it being in front of you, it's behind you.
So there are very specific tools for them to use, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's good. Cool. That's all my questions.
All right, cool. Alrighty, cool. Let's see, what's the next part here? Alright, then, then I guess we were supposed to talk about, the social emotional, intervention that you researched this week and stuff. Yeah.
Do we want to do it in turns, or how do we want to go about that?
Yeah, that does make it sound really cool. Instead of like, yeah, I think we can just go ahead and take turns. Sounds good to me.
Okay, I can go first. So I think the social emotional domains are some of the most interesting because of how they're interlinked with physical and everything else. It seems like if a child's doing well socially and emotionally, it just helps every other domain. But one of the things I'm most interested in is early onset bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed with bipolar as a 20-year-old, and I've been completely able to be healthy without medication, daily oral medication, for like 3 years now. But it took me like 5 years from my onset to now to really get it figured out. And it's really a tragedy, I think, when really young children are diagnosed with that. And it seems like that's becoming more common. So part of my research, I saw a little bit of a documentary that described what these children can be like for their parents. And the definition of bipolar is manic episodes and depressions that kind of cycle, and it's very, very individual. And one of the hardest things I think about bipolar, in fact, I don't even qualify to be, I'm not bipolar by the definition anymore because I haven't had a depression in 4 or 5 years. I just have really high manias, and if I can stop sleeping for 16 days if I just decide not to sleep. And then I'll be hallucinogenic and all that stuff. So with children, like, one of the things I think that's really important is for parents to understand, like, the critical importance of the child's sleep and being able to recognize the manic symptoms at an early age. Because what I think part of why the depression comes is that cycling comes through where they get manic, and then they get not enough sleep, they got too much adrenaline, dopamine, and they get put on a medication or something, and it just crashes them. And it's just amazing. Some of the videos, these children can be just radically unstable. And my wife, when she was little, she remembers having trouble sleeping and things that were connected with that as early as like 6 years old. And part of it, I think, has to do with security at home, movies that our children are exposed to. So to me, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the physical chemical side, but that's also a factor. So I think the thing that I learned most is that parents need to be informed of the possibility of onset psychiatric conditions like bipolar disorder, and they need to know how to recognize the symptoms, and they need to know things that can help improve the child's situation without going to psychiatrists and medication, things like appropriate diet, exercise, sleep, security, appropriate media, and then if there are still problems, to be aware of the symptoms well enough that they can go and get medical professional help if they need it. So just a really fascinating topic for me as an adult who was diagnosed as bipolar and who's now completely almost, I mean, I'm not healed because I have to constantly be aware of my symptoms because I can still go without sleep for 16 days and have really severe problems if I let myself do that. But at the same time, because I know how to manage and watch my symptoms, I don't typically have problems. So
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So yeah, and I think if my parents would have had knowledge, even when I was 20, that would have helped a lot because we didn't have a clue about anything like that when I was diagnosed.
And how long had it persevered for you?
I'm 30. I was diagnosed at 20, and it took me 5 years to get. I had 4 or 5 major psychiatric hospitalizations, like 2 months in the hospital kind of hospitalizations where I wasn't sleeping for weeks on end, and heavy antipsychotic medications, hallucinations, all of that stuff. So, and I've been completely healthy and functional for 5 years, with the need to like watch my sleep, diet, exercise, and then I have an injection that I take every 6 months if I have symptoms. But I'm currently a year without any symptoms, so, and no daily oral medication.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Well, that's really rough, though.
Yeah, it was
Having to
hard.
live with that.
That's why I'm graduating at 30 with my bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies, because at 23 I had a full ride scholarship. I flunked out because I was completely unable to manage this. So.
Aww. Better late than never, right?
Oh yeah, no, I am very grateful. Honestly, who knows what they're doing in their early 20s? I have learned a lot, and I'm still very young and happy. So.
That's great. I'm glad. That's awesome.
Good experience, good learning. I get to share and help a lot of people. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I bet all the knowledge and experience you gained from that has probably helped so many people, and will probably help so many more people that you'll come in contact with.
Yeah, I just think it's nice to have somebody who can verbalize, because a lot of people are, it's very stigmatized, and it's becoming less so. I think Elder Holland's talk in conference a couple conferences ago about talking about social emotional disorders is really helpful. But I think in general it's nice to have somebody who's just like chill about it. Like, yeah, I'm healthy, but I had to deal with this, and I can empathize and I can share experience, and so that helps.
That's awesome.
That was really cool.
I think it helps out that you've come to terms with it. I mean, I have a sister-in-law who is bipolar, and she can't get healthy because she refuses to accept that she has a problem.
Yeah, that's the first step, and it wasn't easy for me, but my things were so radical, like, that it's kind of hard to write off it. So, I'm an incredibly introspective person. I journaled all through high school, like 15 journals, full notebooks of just about my internal workings, and so I'm very, very self-aware, and that helps a lot.
Yeah. That'll be very beneficial to other people that you help.
So that was my topic. Somebody else can go ahead now.
Okay, I can go because my computer has acted funny the past couple times. I don't know why.
Oh.
So, yeah. Okay, so I decided to look at child abuse and neglect. I mean, I realize I haven't dealt with it, but I figured it's a topic that needs to be covered, especially since the most effective intervention is to basically report it, so that way they can get the help they need. Because one of the, because like just the impacts of it can be lifelong. And so I found this website that like just had several different warning signs listed for like different abuse behaviors. And so like for one of them is for emotional abuse, just being excessively withdrawn, fearful or anxious about doing something wrong. Another warning sign is that they like have extremes in behavior. So like either they're extremely compliant or extremely demanding, or it just it's like very different depending on the child, I think. For physical abuse,
I think I lost your sound.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you, Brianna.
I can't hear you either.
We see you talking like perfect, but it's like
Yeah, we're
so
not good lip
bad.
readers. I'm not a good lip reader.
Hear us?
Yeah.
I don't know if she can hear us.
I'll
Text her.
Yeah.
She's going.
Poor girl.
I feel bad.
I wonder if she's like reading off or something.
Yeah, so she's probably not
Maybe she
really
might
looking
be.
at the screen.
Oh, so good.
I'm gonna answer a call from my wife real quick while we're waiting for her to figure it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello? I'm in the Clark building having a Google Hangout meeting.
Got some great stuff to say.
What time do you start class? I might be done here shortly and can make it up there, but if not, then we'll eat it too. Okay. Okay, love you. Bye. Well, should we... I don't know what to do.
I can go and maybe she'll realize it while I'm talking.
I don't know. I don't even
Okay.
think she can hear us.
Yeah, I don't think so. Alright. Well, I looked into child anger issues and, more specifically, children expressing their anger physically. And I found some really good, like, when they're that young, it's really hard to, you don't want to, like, diagnose the child with anything like that because it's just still so much of a developmental thing and they're still trying to learn how to regulate their emotions and learning what their emotions are all about. So intervention-wise, there's not a lot of things to do, like, professionally, but I did find some really good things that you can do at home to help your kid. And a lot of it is commenting on when your child behaves well and helping them realize that you like when they do things right and you like when they're happy and you comment like, oh, I like the way you handled your brother when he took your stuff and you didn't fight with him. And if you know that your child kind of has that issue, you can talk to their teachers and have the teachers kind of say the same thing of like, I know it was difficult for you to wait your turn and I'm so happy that you waited and thanks for sitting in your seat quietly, and just these little kind of tips along the way really help the child understand internally what they should be doing. I read a lot about the parent. When you know that your child is going to be upset about something, to do everything you can for the situation. Say no clearly and firmly, and help your child understand limits and know the rules. And then the other tip that I read, which I thought was really good, was just physical outlets, and just help them get that energy that's all bottled up out, so that when they are angry, they're able to calm down and be patient and express it verbally rather than acting out. Which your gymnastics was mentioned in that, and as a really good way of helping kids get out that energy and put it towards a positive outlet. So yeah, that's what I looked up.
Yeah, I think I've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
I can't recommend that sport with the right coaching and environment. Not
Yeah.
just a lot of.
It definitely talked about that of you'd want more of a one-on-one kind of session, and don't just try to throw your kid into like a group gymnastics class. That they really need that specialized one-on-one, and the teacher understanding why they're there and what they need to work on.
Yep.
Yeah. So did Brianna get it figured out?
She's aware that she had the problem. I don't know if she's got it figured out.
I don't know, can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay. Yeah, I'm hating my computer right now. I don't know what's going on with it. I seriously don't.
Are you talking to your headphone, Keith?
Yeah.
Is it a headphone too?
Yeah, it's a
That
headphone
might be
too,
your
so-
problem if we weren't able to hear you, if you weren't able to hear us and we weren't able to hear you.
Yeah.
That might be what's happening
no,
because your picture was perfect.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with my computer because it's worked before when I've had the headphone microphone thing in, so I don't know why it's not working now. So
All right. Well, you want to do your topic again?
yeah.
Sorry, you have
just-
to like say all that again.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I didn't realize like until after I had like switched back to here that I'm like, oh my gosh, there's all those messages saying they can't hear me. Ah. So okay, so basically with child abuse and neglect, I think it's a very iffy topic. So, because like I mean, just going over the warning signs, like there's a ton of it, like especially for like the I think for like the physical abuse and the neglect portions of child abuse and neglect. Sometimes those can be very iffy because it could depend on the situation of the family and especially like for the neglect part. I mean, some families just can't afford to buy their kids clothes, and sometimes they can't necessarily be able to provide them with the ability to go and wash. So, even for emotional abuse, I think there's there's a lot of iffiness with like the just knowing, like being able to, even though you might know the signs, it's very iffy to say, okay, those are definitely the signs, because some of them you have to know the family situation as well. And so, but something I noticed is like if you don't report something, especially when it's something that you really like, you have a bad feeling about the entire situation anyways, and like it just is something that's persistent, not something that's like suddenly thrown on. It's, I think you definitely need to report it sooner than later because they need the intervention they need. And if they don't get it, then some and I mean, sometimes even with some of the interventions, sometimes they still have these effects, which include anxiety, depression, um, difficulty concentrating, academic problems, difficulty connecting with others, and like difficulty with sleeping. So I think child abuse and neglect is a very iffy topic because yes, you want to be able to report it, but at the same time, you don't want to report something that might break apart a family that doesn't necessarily commit child abuse or neglect, especially with the fact that child protective services can sometimes be a little iffy on their practices as far as um, like taking children away and um, trying to pinpoint the parents as being at fault for something when really it might be out of the parents' control. So I don't know. I just find it to be a very iffy topic. I don't know what you guys think.
No, child abuse is
Yeah,
really
it's
hard.
hard.
It's just because, like, you know, like, parents are doing the best they can. Like, if they're in poverty, there's only so much that they can do for their kids and stuff. And so, like, it's, like, I don't know, like, there's certain points where it's, like, they can go to government agencies and get some extra help, and there's food banks and other places where they can find resources for their children so that they do have everything that they need and stuff. So, um, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not like trying to like put. I mean, like, it's definitely it is really hard just because like parents try. It's not like they don't want to deny their kids everything that they would want them to have. It's just sometimes it's really hard. Neglect and
And then
stuff can happen.
there's also the situations that are just clearly abuse to me. Like when you're beating your child or screaming at them like or sexually abusing them. Like there's some very clear-cut lines I think too.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
There are some like very clear cut lines, but there are some of those that like sometimes the ones that like are a little maybe not quite as significant of child abuse problems that like they like are a little like not quite as prevalent, and so you don't really notice it until like
I think it's hard too when there's not like an ongoing daily, but like there's an explosive thing that happens once a year or twice a year, because that can be damaging too. But that's hard to make the call. Like dad yelled and spanked me really hard because of the stupid thing. Is that abuse? When it doesn't happen except for once a year, and it's because dad's at high stress at work. I don't think that's appropriate by any means, but like the long-term damage of breaking up a family and taking the kids away over something like that is also not a good scenario either. So it's just those situations are all lose-lose all the way around. It's really sad.
yeah, it really is, and I mean I have heard stories about the Child Protective Services in Arizona, which is the state I'm from. So I've heard some bad stories about like how sometimes when you report it, sometimes when they take the child away, and I don't know if this is for all like child protective services in all states, but sometimes they actually like specifically probe the child with specific questions to try and get the child to slip as far as saying, oh yeah, my parents do that all the time, in a sense, when really
Well,
their
and I
parents really don't. So I don't know. I think it's a very iffy situation, and you just have to be very careful. And if you see very obvious signs, then yes, report it. But if it's one of those kind of iffy situations, then I think you need to be very careful about it.
I think it's really good too to just like be supportive of community outreach in terms of like Big Brother programs, just being a good adult role model to children, giving because I think and also helping in your church, doing home teaching, visiting teaching, having adult outlets supporting your community. Like I think that goes a long way. My brother started a company in the last 2 or 3 years where he's going into medium-sized retailers and giving their employees training on basic life skills, anger management. But it's not anger management, it's just like doing the kind of things like quitting smoking, just developing adults to believe in themselves and to live quality lives as an avenue to just supporting the community. I think that's like a huge thing for parents, is that they get something like that where they can feel like they're not being completely pressurized and their only outlet is at home with their kids.
Yeah. I think that's really cool that your brother's doing that. So, and he needs some help too.
Yeah, a lot of times we just focus on the kid and what you can do for the child to get them out of that situation and help them, when in most situations it's the parent that needs some of the help too.
And often the parent's a product of abuse as well, and so it's just a cycle.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing cycle that doesn't end.
Yeah, not it doesn't really end unless if you can really try and intervene.
Become a transitional character.
Yeah. Transitional character, as well as I think also I think younger siblings would definitely benefit if their older siblings are show telltale signs. Then I think younger children can definitely benefit from it if they if the older child is caught first, then the younger child can hopefully recover a lot more quickly and a lot more easily than the older child, and might not continue that cycle. So.
Well, way to go tackling a tough topic.
Okay, Hector.
Have we all presented now, or?
I haven't. I'll try to make it quick because I know that you have to get out of here soon. Fun.
I'm okay. I just my computer's only got so much battery life left. For some reason, my plug is heating up really hot, so I'm a little worried about it. So.
That's not good.
But I think I'm good for another few minutes. So.
Okay. I just did kind of the typical stuff for ADHD and stuff, and sometimes they don't pick up on social cues and they can't self-regulate. Sometimes they'll express themselves with physical and aggressive behavior, or they won't cooperate well and have a hard time making conversation and stuff like that. And so sometimes they have those sorts of things. So some interventions with those, it's making sure that they have regular social interaction and praising appropriate behavior. I mean, I know that we haven't been we've been told not to praise and stuff with the phone book and stuff like that, but I think that in cases like this, that it's really important to reinforce good behaviors, not necessarily by rewarding them with external rewards, but money and things like that. But I think that praise is good, wow, you
genuine conversation or communication kind of thing too.
Exactly, and just having and allowing them to take part in role-playing activities and having conversations with them back and forth, and then if it's really bad, taking them to social skills training where professionals can help them work through all their stuff, where they can develop these skills and stuff like that. Yeah, that's just kind of my long story short, little 1 minute thing just to hammer it out there.
Well, I don't think it's insignificant. I mean, I see enough of these kids with my work, and just growing up, I have a lot of friends that had problems like that, and it really does debilitate their social progress. The ability to graduate from school, even high school sometimes, and get jobs, all that's impacted. A lot of times they end up in crime and stuff. So if they have that kind of person in their life who can give them a positive outlet and model for them and help them develop the skills they need, it can make a huge difference. So.
Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of am more Dale Carnegie than Alfie Kohn when it comes to praise and whatnot, because Dale Carnegie says as long as it's genuine and sincere, it's not bad praise. It's not basically flattery. And
well, I think Alfie Kohn's thing was don't manipulate with verbal praise. So.
I mean, yes, you don't want to manipulate, but you do want to send praises to them. And for me, I feel sometimes he takes it to the extreme. So that's how I feel with Alfie Kohn. So
yeah, I think that it's important to know the difference between manipulating them and honestly letting them know, hey, you did a good thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like just doing like
There's a
Like,
total difference. So
exactly.
I think as long as you make sure what Dale Carnegie, if you guys have ever read his book,
How
How
to
to
Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that book. I think as long as you try to make sure it's sincere and from the heart, then nothing's wrong with praise, and you should praise people because people are amazing.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a child that you're trying to help correct a problem.
Yeah,
That praise and that reassurance is important in that situation for them emotionally and cognitively and psychologically that to help them overcome whatever issue they may be dealing with.
yeah, and I mean, I think it just helps them to reinforce continuing that progression of making sure they improve. And if you don't ever give them praise, I think in some ways it's kind of a way of committing emotional abuse because
Graduate next week.
I have a roommate who is actually her parents rarely ever praised her, like almost never. And usually she was always talked down, and her parents would say sometimes contradictory things, and so for her, she has a very low self-esteem, I feel like, now. And so sometimes I feel like you got to give them praise in order to not just to like help them encourage
I think.
uh,
I
changing
think
it
that
up.
helps them identify their self-worth
I
and
don't
what
know.
they're capable
Yeah,
of.
also identifying their self-worth because every child is a child of God, and they all deserve having that confidence in themselves. And when you don't give them that confidence, then you're basically committing emotional abuse, in my opinion. I'm sorry, you kind of are.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree as well. I mean, every child deserves to know that they are doing well, and as you're, as they're,
That's okay.
let them know you're proud of them.
Sorry about that. I had Brother McCoy talking to me in the hallway here.
So funny. What were you saying, Allison?
Oh, just that I agree that it would, every child deserves that. And you have to find that balance to not overdo it and reward them, and not reward them, but not praise them for every little accomplishment, but they do deserve to get some praise when they do accomplish something.
yeah,
Exactly. And just know that someone is aware of what they're capable of, and someone like just also just like letting them know like, hey, I'm going to help you develop your skills, and like that's how
Yeah,
like self-worth is
I
really developed. It's just like
I really agree with that. I think it's important to let a child know when they have a talent and say you've really, because I remember several times when my mom came to me and said you need to understand you have a gift in this area and you need to use it. And sometimes praise can come in the form of encouragement to do more, and just by saying you have something, make sure that you don't neglect this. And that was always really valuable to me growing up. So
oh,
yeah,
that's the phrase that works the best for me as well. I remember like one of my most cherished memories like ever is like when my dad like would make a comment like that. Like that kind of stuff sticks with kids and stuff. And so I think
And
it's
I think
important
when
to
someone makes a comment like that to a kid, they are so, they have that drive behind them even more now to succeed and to develop that talent even more because people are telling them, like, this is special and this is something that only you have. And so it gives them that motivation and that drive to continue to develop it and work on it.
exactly.
on that note, if you want to watch a fun movie that is about kind of that story, you should watch the Gabby Douglas story. I know I'm into gymnastics, but Gabby Douglas is the African American girl who won the all around in the last Olympics.
Yeah.
And they just made a documentary movie of her life, but she came from a single parent home with 4 siblings. Mom worked all the way through like getting her support to like it's a really neat story, and they did a good job. It's kind of cheesy, but it's fun, so highly recommend it.
Oh,
Yeah, watch that.
awesome. Are there any last comments before we move on to the next part?
No, I'm good. Sorry, I keep adding stuff. I didn't know
no,
we had
that's totally
next part.
great. Yeah, we have to talk about common elements of effective interventions. Then after that, conclude by sharing our best general insight or suggestions, and then we summarize. I mean, we're technically supposed to spend 15 to 20 minutes on that, but considering we only have like 4 minutes left, we'll try to make it quick.
My class actually
all of those elements in our description anyway.
5, so I can give us another 7 minutes ish. So.
Okay, 7 minutes is good. All right.
Okay. I think something that I've noticed with interventions is that a lot of time parents are usually one of the key factors in helping provide the intervention. And then if they can't provide the intervention, then it's other people around the child, like teachers, other adults, grandparents. So I think in a lot of effective interventions, it tends to be a collaborative effort.
I agree.
I definitely agree. And just to add on to that, one of the important parts of interventions that I've noticed is that when parents, parents are a key part in interventions just because a lot of issues can stem from a parent's either neglect or they're too busy or things like that. Like a parent's one-on-one time with their child and interacting with them, playing with them, things like that, just from the time that they're born and all the way up, spending that quality time with their children and being responsive to their needs really fosters optimum development, I think, and stuff. And so I think that a lot of problems can be avoided just from parents doing those sorts of things with their children and stuff. And what's nice is that kids are so plastic that even if they don't get that at first, parents can implement that and they're able to recover over time and stuff. I mean, of course, they're not
I feel like.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like though, like one of the things that's really important with what you're saying about plasticity is that parents and the children need to understand that these changes aren't instantaneous. Like with almost any severe disability or issue, like you're looking, generally speaking, on minimum of months, if not years, on developing out of these problems, and that can be kind of daunting and discouraging on the outset, but when you continually believe and have faith in the ability of the plasticity of the child's ability to develop, then you stick with it and miracles happen. So I just think that's important, so that parents can understand you can't solve this overnight. You know?
No, you can't solve it overnight. I mean, my sister has autism, and we're pretty sure she was born with it, which is quite rare for some children, but like just with how she wasn't diagnosed until really late, but when we finally did get her diagnosed, we were able to get her the help she needed to be able to progress to a point where now, for the most part, she can interact socially when she wants to. She doesn't want to most of the time, but she can interact for the most part quite well. There are some things she still doesn't quite get socially, but for the most part, she can still interact with others.
That's awesome.
I think something I got from these weeks lesson is you have to go at the child's own pace. Anything with interventions, a lot of it is the parent wanting to get their kid to a certain end goal, and so they try to push the child so beyond their limits, and you just really have to be patient with the child and go at their pace and their limits, and that's the way they're really going to learn best and foster their development, is if you let them do it at their own pace while giving them that intervention and those tools and skills that they need without pushing them beyond what they can handle.
Yeah, and most definitely you want to go at their own pace, so if you don't, then
push them too hard, you kind of take away that motivation to even learn, because they're going to probably fail at it and they're going to get discouraged and they're not going to want to try anymore. Whereas if you let them go at their own pace, they're going to feel accomplished and successful when they can accomplish whatever task you're trying to work on.
Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Awesome. Does anyone have any last comments that they want to make before we summarize?
I think we're
Just
good.
good luck with everybody on the end of the semester. It's been nice meeting all of you. Hope you have a great, successful, wonderful life, and thanks for all the interaction. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, you too, Vaughn.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck, Paige and Vaughn, in your future endeavors as college graduates.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Alright, awesome. Who wants to do a quick summary of what we've talked about?
Okay, I can do it.
Alright, perfect.
Okay, so we first talked about our physical interventions. I'm sorry, Vaughn. I was trying to remember so hard what it was.
Hypertonia.
Hypertonia, okay. And then bow-legged walking. Then we went into the social interventions, which I talked about child abuse. Vaughn, you talked about depression or bipolar depression,
Childhood
right?
bipolar, yeah.
Yeah, childhood bipolar. And I did not. Okay, I can't remember, Paige, exactly what was yours, and Allison, I didn't really hear yours because my computer was
Oh,
weird.
yeah, you're doing you're trying to fix your computer. I talked about just childhood anger and expressing it physically.
Yeah, and then I did ADHD.
Okay. I should have remembered ADHD because I have it. Inattentive type though, so I'm somewhat good.
Right.
So, and then we went into we just talked a little bit about AlfieCon and praises, and then we went on to the similarities we see in some interventions, and as far as like overall in general. So, yeah.
Alright, that's it. Awesome. Alright.
Yep.
And that
Thanks,
is
everybody.
the end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any